Hey friends, Sleepy here, and welcome to another episode in my community question series, episode 32. And today's question I want to ask you guys is, do you enjoy video game emulation? Do you guys enjoy using emulators to play ROMs of video games for various consoles, from like Atari all the way up to some of the more modern consoles? I would love to know your guys' answer to this question. You can answer the question as a comment or a video response. If you do film a video response, just let me know about the video response so that I can check out your video, because I would hate to miss it. I don't always get notified by YouTube when people upload, and I want you guys to get credit. But then I can also post a link to your video response as a comment. That way other people can find your video response as well. And this may be one of those questions that you guys feel that like leaving a comment just won't justify the answer and you would like to film a video response. Feel free to film a video response, as I'd love to watch it, and I also enjoy reading your guys' comments. Now, I will be holding a contest at the end of this question series, and there will be different prizes. The main prize, grand prize for the contest, will be a console of the winner's choice, and I will bundle some games with it, but there will also be some other winners who will win games and some other prizes and stuff. So keep an eye out for that at the end of this series. So if you guys have missed any of the previous questions of my 31 previous questions, you guys can go back at any time and answer those questions and get entries into the contest as long as it hasn't concluded. So you guys can go back anytime and answer any of the ones you missed, and that'll get you more entries for the contest and more chances to win. So I'm gonna let you guys know my thoughts on this question. Do I enjoy video game emulation? I absolutely do. And it's something that I really love. Now, I know some people really do not like emulation and emulators. You know, they prefer to own the original games and hardware, which I also prefer, as I am a collector. I've got a vast collection of games, and I do prefer playing original games on original hardware, on the television, and actually physically owning the games. But I do understand where there is a need for emulation and where it can be really nice to have in your collection. And I know there's a variety of ways that people are able to emulate video games with various emulators. You know, you've got your PC, obviously, is where I originally played emulators, and those old original Nintendo emulators. It was really cool playing in the Mario Brothers with a keyboard. It's kind of unique. Or sometimes we used a PC controller, but some of the earliest emulation that I ever got into was on PC. And I know that over the years we've really come up with new ways for stuff. You know, people have those really cool Raspberry Pis. People have modded original Xboxes, a modded Nintendo Wii. People have the ability to buy flash carts, where you can have a cartridge that has an SD card that plugs into it and has all the ROMs, so you're able to play all the games on original hardware and not have to swap cartridges or discs. I know people have modded their Dreamcast and PS2s to have, and Sega Saturns to have, they took out the optical drive and just put in a SD card, and you can literally play all the Dreamcast library off of an SD card, which is really cool. So it's definitely something that I find is neat. It's also a great way for people to play games that they can't afford, especially now with the pandemic. You know, some of these games are just absolutely outrageous, $300, $400, $500 for a game, and if you emulate the game, you're able to play it without having to spend an arm and a leg. Now, my favorite way to play my games with emulators and stuff is on my modded Nintendo Wii console, which I have here, which I have modded several over the years. But I really love the Wii because it was so easy to mod, soft mod wise, without having to do any hardware modification or anything. Real simple, like pretty much anybody can do it as long as you follow the easy tutorial videos here. You know, you can get emulators and ROMs on this and start enjoying games. And so I have regular Nintendo, I've got Super Nintendo, I've got Game Boy, Game Boy Color, Game Boy Advance, Sega Master System, Sega Genesis, Sega 32X, and then I've also got GameCube games that I can play digitally on here, and then I also have some arcade games on here, so I can play the arcade games from MAME on the Wii, which is cool. You also can put PS1 games on the Wii, which I don't have on mine, but you can play PS1 games, TurboGrafx 16. I do have some Atari 2600 and Atari 5200 and Atari 7800 games on here as well. And it's just really nice to be able to take thousands of games with me on just my little modded Wii, and they all fit on this cool 32 gig SD card, which you can also hook up though is an external hard drive to the Wii as well, and then that opens up even more storage space, and you can play digital Wii games. I do know some people have huge Wii libraries digitally along with GameCube that they're able to play on their modded Wiis, and it's just something I find that's very versatile and very good to have as a modded Wii. It's very useful as it plugs into, you know, most televisions, really good. And then there's various options to play the various emulators with, like the Wiimote and the Nunchuck, but there are some other controllers you guys can use, especially if you have the old Wii models that have the GameCube support built in, as you can use GameCube controllers that can plug into them, which is cool. They did release some classic controllers, so they have the classic design like this that has the 4 buttons and has 2 analog sticks and a D-pad, and it's got some trigger buttons up top, which is cool. And they did rework this with a new version of it that came out with little handles and grips at the bottom, which I do prefer over, which is really nice. There is no rumble or anything with these controllers, but they do plug right into the Wiimote on the bottom, and you can use that to play your games. So another one that they have is they did release some GameCube games, or GameCube controllers, that have the little plug that you can then plug into the bottom of the Wiimote, and it plugs in there. And now I have another option with another kind of GameCube controller. One that I found that was really cool, and it was from Hyperkin, is you can actually use authentic regular Nintendo and Super Nintendo controllers to play those games through the emulator. And Hyperkin released a little adapter, so you got a Super Nintendo one here, but I also got an NES one, and it literally just plugs into the bottom there. Take your NES controller, which I have a Dogbone one there, and it'll plug in to there like that. And now I can play NES games with an actual NES controller on my Wii, which is really sweet. That's really awesome. And then you can also plug in the Super Nintendo one and use actual authentic Super Nintendo controllers to play Super Nintendo games on your console on the Wii, which is cool. So you can play actual Super Nintendo games with a real Super Nintendo controller, and then you can use that for Game Boy or what other games. I really wish Hyperkin would have released a Sega Genesis controller adapter for the Wii, as I thought that would have been something that's really cool and open up a lot of possibilities. So I really love having my modded Wii, and I'm going to show you guys that modded Wii and the various games on there in just a second. Alright guys, I'm going to show you guys my modded Wii. So this is a console that I love having because I can take thousands of games with me and have a retro gaming night at a buddy's house or something, and all I have to do is bring a tub with this Wii, and I don't have to lug tons and tons of games with me, but we could play all kinds of vintage games, and they can be really fun. Now my Wii is not like got any bells and whistles and isn't super modded fancy, because I've seen some where people have crazy unique themes. They got different colors and backgrounds and unique music and stuff. I kept mine pretty basic to where I can just get to the games and play the ones I want, but I do have some channel forwarders that they created, and then I had to custom install one of these ones for my Sega consoles here. But I have my Game Boy that plays Game Boy Color, Game Boy Advance games there, my Super Nintendo and regular Nintendo. And I just wanted to show you guys a couple of the games. And I really like the theme of these custom forwarders that they created here with the little Mario characters going by and the little original Mario sound. And sometimes it can take a little bit to give it a second to load. It just is what it is when you're dealing with emulation and emulators and stuff. Usually it loads pretty quickly, but I do notice sometimes there's some issues with getting some of these to load quickly. So you just something to be aware of, because again, you're playing something through emulation. But let's like just pick like one of the Super Mario Brother games. Down to it, which is crazy. You don't have to have all these games, but literally this is like every Nintendo game out there, and like variations and hacks and stuff, which is another thing that's cool about emulation is, you know, you can play hacks that people have created and made new games and homebrews and stuff, which is awesome. Like, there's the Super Mario Brothers, so we'll play, like, let's check out Mario Brothers 2. Click on it, and it'll load it up. And now I have Super Mario Brothers 2 to play, which is really cool. Play little Luigi. So it's just something that's really fun because I have access to bring all these classic games with me and play them on the go. And then I can just hit the menu thing there, and I can go to the main menu and go back, or I can quit back out to the main home screen. Now I did want to show you guys my use I can do with for Nintendo on the Homebrew channel here. And through the Homebrew channels where you can access all the various emulators and stuff you have. Like there's a game I have, Alien Breed. There's MAME, which I have my arcade games I can play on the go, which is cool. Atari 2600. Even have an N64 emulator on here, though it's not the best, and even a ColecoVision one. But the one I wanted to show you guys is my Nintendo, which is my GameCube loader, which I can play GameCube games, and you can also play Wii games and stuff on the thing. But this is what I use to play my Mario Kart Arcade GP games, which is awesome. When I discovered being able to play Mario Kart Arcade games on the Wii, and so I have them here, the different lists. Some games I have Animal Crossing and Crash Team Racing, but I wanted to show you guys the Mario Kart Arcade ones that I'm able to play through emulation. The games at the arcade you're able to play here at home with a controller. It's got all my stats there. And you can turn on the announcer off or on. We'll keep it on so you guys can see what it's like. And you can go through this cool arcade game and pick your character, which I will pick Luigi. And since this is an emulator, there's obviously no camera, but the real Mario Kart Arcade, you got to have an emulator, or had a camera that you could use for your character, and there's the various copies I still have to unlock. You guys can see that in this file, I've only got 2 in this round beat, but I've got all 4 and got the gold on there, so we'll show you guys just the Yoshi Cup real quick. And I'll just show you guys the first level again.
Here we are live from Yoshi Park Course 1. This special course passes players through the attractions of Yoshi Park. The most talented driver is Luigi. What thrilling techniques will we see? Luigi, a careful start. Luigi is looking to make a move. Awesome! Luigi, I can't believe the move this card has made. Luigi shoots the bases. Bullseye.
So some people did find the announcer annoying, but since this is an emulator, you can actually turn him off, because he can get kind of annoying. And this has unique tracks and characters to just this Mario Kart that was in the arcade, and has some unique items and stuff, as well as you can unlock content. And which is really cool about this game is they actually had a Mario Kart that you could purchase and plug into the game and to keep track of your progress. Since this is an emulator, I have a virtual card set up. But it's just really neat being able to play an arcade game at home on the Wii, and this is definitely a really cool Mario Kart game to be able to play. Really neat. But I just wanted to give you guys a little taste of what my modded Wii is like, and it's just something that I really do enjoy having in my collection. So let's go back to the game room. So I hope you guys enjoyed that little look at my modded Wii. Is it perfect? Of course not. As you guys saw, sometimes there can be some hiccups where it could have some loading issues. But overall, it's a really fun console that I like using. And I'm able to just take it with me on the go. Can have a nice fun retro gaming night with my buddies. And I can bring all my regular Nintendo, Super Nintendo, Game Boy Color, Game Boy Advance, all my Sega, Genesis, and Master System, and Game Gear games. And then I have those arcade games I can play, and GameCube and Wii, so I have such an amount of games that I'm able to take on the go with me, and it's just something that's really fun, and I don't have to worry about bringing cartridges or games with me. And it's also a great way for people to experience and play games that they might not be able to afford, and it's also great you can check out games that are like, you know, maybe you can find out if you like it or not, and then you might want to go out and buy it, which is great. And you can test it. I'm like, ooh, I'm glad I didn't buy this $100 game because it's trash, and I was able to try it out. So it is a great way for people to save money and be able to play some of the most expensive games without having to spend an arm and a leg for them. You just have to pay to get way to play them, whether it's on your PC or Raspberry Pi or a modded original Xbox or modded console. Like I use the modded Wii, but I do like emulation, and it does have a place in gaming. Now, will I always prefer the actual hardware and actual physical games? Of course, but emulation is a great way for us to play games, and not everybody has access or the space for a giant library, and so having emulation is a great way for people to still be able to game and not have to spend a fortune gaming, especially for these older consoles. So I really do love emulation and feel it has a great place in the gaming industry. I would love to know your guys' thoughts and your guys' answer to this question. Do you guys like emulation? Do you guys like video game emulation? Well, let me know. You guys can answer that question as a comment, or you can film a video response. If you do film the video response, just let me know about it so I can check it out, and then I will post a link to your video as a comment. That way other people can check it out as well. I want to thank you guys for watching. Take care. You guys have an amazing day, and Sleepy will see you next time.